everyone. This is our third of three in sessions about philanthropy, and I am delighted to welcome Joe Crome from the CAF Charity Aid Foundation, who is head of business development and also the CAF American Donor Fund. So, Joe, thank you so much for joining us and being here with us, and your time as well. It's massively appreciated.
Thank you.
Why don't you start by giving us a bit of an overview of the Charity Aid Foundation and who are you and what are you about, and let's start that process.
Yeah, well, thank you, and thanks for having me today. So CAF, or Charities Aid Foundation, we're 100 years old this year. We've been around for a while. We are one of the largest charities in the UK by income. So we have about 1.1 billion pounds a year of donations comes into CAF every year, and
Worldwide?
so that's into the UK charity, into CAF UK. But we're an interesting organisation because although we're a charity, we're not directly out there delivering services ourselves. We're working as a partner to individuals, businesses, and other charitable foundations to help them make their giving more impactful and more successful. So our vision is to help accelerate progress in society towards a fair and sustainable future for all. That's a very broad vision. And most simply, we do that by offering really great giving solutions and products to people that want to give. So mostly what that looks like is working with people and families and often large businesses to manage all of their giving in one place and help them get their giving from them and their funds onto charities, either domestically or all over the world. So we're really a partner for people. We're a facilitator and sometimes an advisor as well. If people are looking to kind of understand where they should give or how they should give, we can also partner and provide kind of support and consultancy as well. So I think in a way it's funny because CAF is very large and established, but in a way is also quite a well-kept secret.
Well, yeah, I mean it is. I mean, I didn't realize that there was that much in inflows coming through, and I didn't realize that you're 100 years old. That's phenomenal. So if I can boil down to what you just said, so effectively you partner with a range of other charities, and that number's huge, isn't it? Do you know off the top of your head how many charities it is in the UK that you partner with?
Yeah, well, last year globally we gave to 160,000 charities, and that covered 119 countries. So, although a lot of our giving focuses on the UK and the US because we also have an office there, we also are sending money to charities around the world, and that, for the most part, that is money that our donors, our clients, are advising us to send. So if an individual that we're working with has a cause that they support in South Africa, for example, we will send the money overseas. We'll do some due diligence to make sure the UK regulators are happy with what we're doing, but we'll send the money on to a charity in pretty much any country in the world on behalf of our clients. So it tends to be that a lot of our clients have some kind of international connections from some part of their lives, and so that forms a part of their kind of giving strategy, and that's something that we're really able and happy to help with.
Yeah, amazing. So person A contributes into their Charity Aid Foundation account. They then have an option to use you guys to distribute that money to a range of different charities, but with the knowledge that you guys have undertook some due diligence on that charity to make sure they are legitimate and comply with all the regulation, etc. and so forth. That's how you guys partner with these other charities to make it a seamless transition, right? Or some process.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so for a lot of clients, the due diligence is really important, and sometimes we call it the three R's. So you've got the reputation management, the risk mitigation, and the regulatory compliance. So for some clients, they're really concerned to make sure that the charities they give to are, not going to get in trouble or use the money in a way that other than which is intended. Obviously, when we're granting money beyond just the UK, there might be sanctions requirements we have to fall in line with, or there might be different types of charitable regulators that we're not quite familiar with, as we would be with the Charity Commission in the UK. So for a lot of our clients, that due diligence piece is really, really vital because they want to make sure their money is going towards the right kind of causes. So in terms of how it actually works, once a client has set up an account with us and they've deposited some money into the fund, they can then use their online dashboard to request that we support a charity of their choosing. So If it's already a charity that we've supported before and it's domestic, that would be a very almost immediate kind of facilitation. If it's an overseas charity we've not supported before, then we work directly with the charity to onboard them with CAP and make sure we have their key information. Again, like I said, we're managing any kind of sanctions or fraud issues, so we're getting a proof of bank account or whatever we need to do to make sure everyone's comfortable with the transaction being appropriate and compliant. And that's a really, really important kind of value add service that we provide for clients.
Yeah, massively vital because yeah, I mean, there's so much, um, there's so much that can go wrong, and there's so much that's not transparent and potential for it to go wrong really quickly. I think that's massive. And can I ask about the size of the partners that you work with? I mean, do we have like local choral societies versus and then multinationals like Oxfam? Is the span that big, or is it much more confined? Can you give us a bit of a sense of who you work with?
Yeah, no, it's really everything. I mean, some clients will ask us to, use their account to support their local church, and some clients will want to work with us to help support international disaster relief. So they might be giving through, International Rescue Committee or Oxfam, as you've said. So no, it's really broad because the idea is that your account with CAF is a one-stop shop. So the idea is that, particularly for people who are doing a lot of giving or giving overseas or giving in quite complex ways, it brings everything together into one place. So rather than you having to donate to lots of different charities or fill in lots of gift aid forms, or if you're claiming income tax relief for your self-assessment, having to claim through lots of different places, you pop it all into one place and then that's it. That's really simple. And so naturally, you kind of get the whole continuum from any client. It might be that we're making their standing order to their church every month, but also sending money overseas for them, and also even potentially working on something much more complex with them. So it tends to be we have the full spectrum. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's from a client's perspective, I guess the administration side of that. So their gift aid form that they get back is just a single document or a single note from you guys that confirms everything that they've got. So that, yeah, so it doesn't make they don't need six of them. They've just got one to hand to their accountant to make it
Yeah, that's
straightforward.
right. So when someone donates to CAF, that is the kind of that's the event at which they've made their charitable contribution. So the money's kind of crossed the charitable threshold. They've made their gift to CAF as a charity that we are. And so that also makes it simple. Rather than having to send your accountant lots and lots of receipts from lots of different charities, you have that one receipt. The money that we then send on to charity is a grant from CAF to another charity on your behalf as a donor. So you don't have to keep track of all of those for tax reasons. That makes it really simple as well. And some clients will use CAF or a similar provider to CAF as an alternative to then creating their own charitable foundation. So if they've got bigger plans for their giving, or they're, maybe they're retiring or exiting a business or something, a lot of people think about creating their own foundation to kind of philanthropy for some people is almost like a second career. It's their time to kind of really invest in their legacy and their impact and maybe involve their family. And historically, you would normally then end up creating your own structure and doing it that way, which is then there's nothing wrong with that. But generally speaking, if you work with CAF, you kind of achieve a bit of an economy of scale by working with a provider that already has the infrastructure and the expertise. And for some clients, I think actually it's preferable, they don't particularly feel the need to be a trustee of a charity of their own or to have the responsibilities, the reporting that comes with the burdens of running a foundation can be avoided by working with CAF, and then you get to do the good bit. So we always say, but quite biasedly, I should add, but we always say all of the benefits with none of the burdens, because you get to focus on the nice bit, the giving the money away, and we take care of all of the other governance and regulatory issues.
I Yeah, I think it's not to be underestimated the impact of governance and general trustee and foundation work, even setting it up. It can be a burden, and you guys certainly provide that as a and the due diligence alone must count for an inordinate amount of effort and time. And you referred to you said if someone makes a donation to the fund, do you want to outline that? Because I guess because of the industry we work, or the financial services, there could be some confusion around that. So do you want to just explain what you referenced there, and how that relates to the Charity Aid Foundation?
Yeah, so the product, if we sort of use financial services terms, the product that we offer is called a donor advised fund or a DAF. And that effectively is your charitable giving account that sits under CAF's charitable status. And so we're actually FCA registered. So the process of onboarding with CAF is probably not too dissimilar to something you might experience with your bank or with your wealth manager or something like that. And so you would apply for an account with us, and then we would open an account for you. And effectively, that's a restricted fund under CAF's umbrella, so a charitable fund. And so you make your gift to CAF, and then the money is credited to your donor advised fund, which could be in your family's name or an alias if you want to have anonymity. And then that is your giving pot, that is your giving account. And you could keep that account just as a kind of cash only account. You could just keep it in there with a balance and distribute those funds to charities when you wish. Or you could actually decide that you want us to invest the funds for you so they can grow and maybe even be used in perpetuity. So we can we can purchase stocks and shares and ETFs and bonds and mutual funds, or we can actually work with third-party investment managers to help your fund have the best chance of growth for the future. So, and that would sort of take more of a kind of typical foundation endowment style approach where you might have a big lump of capital in your charitable fund with us, but you might be thinking, okay, actually, realistically, we'll maybe have 4 or 5% a year drawn down for the grant making to charities, and the rest will just grow. Anything above that, any returns that may be above that, will just allow the fund to accumulate and grow into the future. And within that fund, the clients can even appoint successors, maybe their children or a family friend or something. So it can really look and feel like a very long-term endeavor, like as if it was your own foundation. It's just under the management of CAF, so that all of that stuff is taken care of. And the other option is that, a good chunk of clients will just gift cash to CAF, which is how most people give to charity generally. But increasingly, and this could be relevant for your clients as well, we often receive gifts of shares. So, generally listed shares, whether that's listed in the UK or in the US or elsewhere. Gifting appreciated stock can be a really efficient way to give from a tax perspective. And we can accept gifts of shares in specie. We can even accept gifts of property and other types of non-cash assets. So again, you kind of have this opportunity where philanthropy can kind of cross paths with your financial planning and become a really nice complementary sort of efficiency tool with everything else that you're planning with your family's wealth. So that's where people like CAF can also be a bit more sophisticated about working with you to make sure that your philanthropy complements all of the planning that you're doing with your team.
So if can I just repeat what I think I heard you say, just so that we're really clear on it? Is that all right?
Of course, yeah, of course.
Thank you. So there is no. We start from the first point what you made, which is there's no time limit on an asset being with CAF, so that you don't have to once the clients put money into their DAF account, their donor advised fund, they could hold it in cash, and there's no restriction on how quickly that gets distributed. They can make decisions over many years, or they can make it tomorrow. There's no time limit on that, right?
That's right.
And
Yeah, there's no distribution requirement, no.
it's just as they want. So all of a sudden we then are looking at potential legacy planning, succession planning, and getting potentially the kids involved in understanding how gifting works and the areas of the benefits of what that can look at, which is a fascinating thing to start exploring. I think it's particularly with family members. But in terms of gifting more than just cash, so assets, I think what you were referring to there is, so let's assume that we've got a buy-to-let portfolio, just really simple because everyone understands bricks and mortar. It's gone up in value over the years. If that is gifted to the Charity Aid Foundation, is that possible?
Yeah,
In
yeah.
terms of a
So
property? And the
yeah,
benefit of that is that then there's no capital gains tax implication because it's a gifted charity. So from a tax liability perspective, it's really clean for a client, that assuming they can afford to gift the money away and all the caveats that come with it. But from a
yeah.
capital gains planning perspective, it's equally as beneficial from that way, as well as then forming the inheritance tax implications that gifting to charity does as well. Is that what you were referring to?
That's right. Yeah. So that's exactly it. And gifts during lifetime of listed shares or residential property in the UK there's also an income tax, and this is all on HMRC's website, but this is treated as an income tax relief gift. a qualifying gift, just as cash would be. And absolutely right, gifts in lifetime or post life avoid any sort of capital gains net as well to charity. So, and that's another nice opportunity. And obviously, any gift, a gift of something in your estate to charity, the value of that gift, providing it's been appraised, will be included in your estate financial accounts. So that nice piece within the IHT planning of gifting 10% of your estate, reducing your taxable burden by 4%, is also includes the property and other things that you might put into the estate as well.
And you guys provide a service to help that advisory piece around that if necessary. Is that right? Have I understood that right?
Yeah, so we can't offer tax advice, but in terms of the actual wider planning of a family's philanthropy, we have an advisory team in house. So if a family is thinking about, again, this could be lifetime giving or it could be post-life, if they're thinking about constructing a plan and they want some help with that, then we can either start from the very beginning and work with a family to think about, do we want to give locally or globally, and do we want to give all the money away at once, or do we want to invest it and work over a longer time horizon? So there's all of that kind of thing on a very broad scale. Or there's the ability for us to, lots of families come to us and say, okay, we really care about Malaysia. We want to support conservation charities in Malaysia, but we don't know any, or we don't know who's most impactful. We will then go away and do a research piece and use some of the data we've already got from our grant making, but also interview other partners and understand for the budget of that family what would be the most impactful opportunities to support charities in Malaysia working within conservation. So we can do that whole piece, and that's really nice. We can also help often with the support of a financial advisor or a wealth manager. We can help the family think about, for some people, obviously their wealth is mostly tied up during their lifetime, but they know that post-life there will be a relatively sizable estate. And so we can think about, if they already know they want to just distribute that money to one charity, for example, then they may not need CAF at all, and they would just be able to name that charity within their will. If they want to do something maybe a bit more complicated, some overseas giving in their will, or they like the idea of their legacy living on in perpetuity, then their estate can gift the assets to CAF, and we can then create a long-term fund in the legacy of their family, and it could distribute grants to charities of their choice for, forevermore. So there are some nice other opportunities. If your estate is where the money will be, if your money's not liquid right now, then there are still options to kind of plan your legacy. So we can do that as well.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, it's fascinating. Can we I don't want to take too much more of your time, Joe, because you're giving it very generously, but can you talk us through the just how the donor advised fund work? Let's say that someone wants to do a lump sum, a significant lump sum now, use an arbitrary figure of 200 grand now, and they don't want that kind of distributed immediately, but they don't want to hold it in cash because the impact of inflation, blah 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 blah. What are the options? You talk through that you could work with discretionary fund managers, and there's some options that you guys have. How does that work, and what are the can you give us an indication of the charges or the costs on that, just so that people have a flavor of it? And because there's clearly a cost in it somewhere that
Yeah.
you guys have to cover costs, etc. Can you give us a bit of an overview to that?
Yeah, so if we take that figure, that £200,000, and that would be in one of our accounts, which we call it, the account name is called a charitable trust. That's what we call it. And so that would sit in the account. And in terms of the fees, they're charged on a percentage basis of the average daily balance, which is what most clients would be used to from an investment account or a brokerage account they have already. So it would, it's, for example, 1% of the first 100,000, 70 basis points of the next 500,000, sort of graduating down based on, and the fee schedule is all on the website, and so people can see that. But if they want actually to grow the balance rather than erode it immediately with grants, then for that amount, normally we would work with a discretionary third-party manager above £1 million for the fund. Under £1 million, we've got a really, really broad investment policy, and the client can sort of self-advise. So we have a really broad list of options, and we have suggested funds as well. But we can purchase, as a charity, we can purchase virtually any listed shares, ETFs, bonds, mutual funds, or put the money into kind of a fixed term deposit account with one of the major banks, which at the moment obviously is still quite favourable. And so the client can ask us to execute any of those suggestions. They might ask us to purchase a range of trackers or individual stocks or bonds or whatever, and we can go and just purchase those for their fund. Or we also have some pooled funds. We have some ESG funds that are currently managed by LGT, which was Aberdeen previously. And there are three risk profiles, and they're pooled funds where we've got hundreds of millions of pounds of money from clients and charities poured into these funds to help grow within a kind of spectrum of three different profiles of ESG screening. So that's another option as well. So that's how it works, and then where that money is invested, they'll then just email our team or contact our team through the login area and say, okay, I'd like to make some now. Please, could you sell £50,000 worth of my Tesla stock that you're holding for me, or my, £100,000 of my Nvidia, or whatever it might be, and we'll then go and execute those transactions through our brokers, make the funds available, and then we can grant the money onto charity. So we can try and make it as efficient as possible for them, so the money's invested as much as it needs to be.
And flexibly, I mean, it sounds like there's massive amounts of flexibility within what you guys have put together. And we've thrown out there an arbitrary figure of 200 grand, and that, that's not an insignificant amount.
Yeah.
I suppose what's the smallest amount a client could put in, like, just so we've got a bit of a spectrum, because I guess there's no upper limit, but there, is there a bump point which we can't go below? We got a sort of
Yeah.
hurdle.
So we have two account types. So one is called our charity account, which is really a kind of a more basic but pretty useful giving account, which you can start with £100. And so that one is not investable. That's a cash only account, and it's not for gifting complex assets, but it does the job. It's a one-stop shop. You can still grant overseas from that account, and it keeps it all in one place. What that doesn't offer, that's a much more cost-effective account, and it doesn't offer kind of a private client service. Whereas if you are working with us on the charitable trust account, then you're looking at really upwards of £25,000. Obviously, the less value in the fund, the less the investments will really be able to grow meaningfully. So and create enough distribution potential for your charities. But you can open an account for that much on the investment side, and you're then given access to a private client team who can work with you and support your requests and your giving, and have someone, a named contact member. So that's the kind of distinction. I think you probably get the most value from an invested fund when you go sort of over 50, 100K, because then obviously those funds can produce something a bit more meaningful that you can then distribute to charity. So below that, you're probably absolutely fine with our cash only account if you've just got to making distributions ad hoc.
And I suppose for clients that are in that position, they could just log onto the portal, and then just, it's all very kind of online, kind of
Yeah.
digital focused. It's a really straightforward process from what we can see. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. It's the idea is that for those accounts, it's more of a self-service approach, and then it's only in the exceptions that we might have to, if the client suggests a charity that we actually can't support for some reason, which is rare but possible, then we might have to pull out that request and speak to you about it specifically. But otherwise, it tends to be more of a self-service approach with those kind of accounts. Yeah, yeah.
Look, thank you so much for your time. I guess, is there anything that we haven't covered that you think it's, that would be good just to touch base on, or do you feel like we've covered everything? It's kind of like the moment, the catch-all moment, if you want.
I think whether it's Kath or someone else, I think I would always encourage people if they have questions or they're a bit hesitant to speak to, most of the clients that you're working with and I'm working with would have some kind of professional support, whether that's on the legal side or the financial planning or the wealth management. And most of those people have a network of other providers and some in the philanthropic space. And I think, the thing that's always frustrating for us is when people don't give money away because of the kind of overwhelm of the different options, or fear of getting it wrong, or just the inertia of choice. So I think, if you're not sure, then speak to your advisors and find someone that they trust that you can speak to, whether that's myself and Kath or someone else, because there's so much support and help out there, and it is complicated. And Andrew Carnegie said it's harder to give money away than it is to earn it in the first place, and it can feel like that for clients sometimes because it's such a minefield of who's having the most impact and who will use my money well and who has overheads that I'm happy with and all that kind of thing. So I think don't let that put you off, I would say. I always sort of tell people, go and talk to your friends about it as well. Find out who in your peer network or your business partners, whoever, talk about giving. Let's kind of break the stigma a little bit and have conversations about it so we can all learn from each other. And that, I think, that tends to be the thing that helps people be more likely to then go and give themselves, because they've spoken to someone and they've kind of navigated it a bit more rather than just doing it in isolation. So that would be my main message. And of course, we're here to help. And when we're a charity first and foremost, so our mission is to unlock more money for other charities and to help our donors to make sense of giving. So come talk to us, look at our website, but just whoever you trust, talk to them and find out what they're doing with giving. And if they have someone that might be able to help you, would be my message.
Amazing. And sound solid comment. Really sounds solid. And we'll make sure that there's a link to the website and things. It is the best place if people want to know more. I mean, we'll always direct people. And how about if someone wants to go direct to you guys, is the best route through the website and reach out via that method? Is that the easiest and best way?
Yeah, so there's the website cafonline.org, or people can email the philanthropy at cafonline.org inbox, and that comes through to our team who can kind of triage and see what you might need. So either route is good. Yeah.
Amazing. Joe, thank you so much for your time.